Hey everyone, welcome back to Williamson Ridge Outdoors. Today we are standing out here in front of our 2023 Chevy Silverado 2500 with the Duramax diesel, and we've got the hood up. But the reason for that, it's just maintenance time. I'm going to go ahead and change the oil in the truck, and I'm going to do this myself, and I'm going to take you along to kind of show you how to do that, because at the dealer, this is quite expensive. Last time I was there, I had the dealer doing the first service, which was actually included in the purchase of the truck. But now, in order to change the oil, whenever I checked there about 4 or 5 months ago, it was $180 to change the oil in this. So I figured I'd go ahead and do this myself. So let's go ahead and jump in here and get started. I'll show you where things are at. I'll show you what kind of oil I'm using. This is all user preference though. Just because I use a certain type of oil doesn't make it, you know, the type that you should use, but this is the type that I feel comfortable using myself and I think is a good quality oil to put in my truck. So I'll also be pulling a sample from this oil change to send into Blackstone Labs in order to do an oil analysis on this. I actually did the first oil change and the results on it actually were fairly typical for a motor during its break-in period, but I wanted to do a second one. And I may do this for several oil changes on down the road just to keep a check on things and make sure things are continuing to wear well, and also to see where my oil change intervals should be, because they can actually tell you whether that oil has more life left in it or not, or whether maybe even you were running it too long of a period and you need to change it sooner. So the oil filter, I decided to go with this on this oil change, was from Doc's Diesel, and I've been actually seeing them a whole lot. They advertise that they are doing premium grade filters, plus you could go to them and get everything in one place. I also want to point out that even though I'm advertising them, I have no affiliation with them, and this is what I chose to get on my own. And the reason that I'm showing this is just to show what I decided to do. I'm not endorsing them or telling you that this is the best stuff to get, but I'm sharing my experience with it, because I'm going to use this stuff, and then, you know, the next time that I change my oil or do my maintenance and do all that, then I can kind of keep you up to date and give you my opinion on how I like their products. So like I said, I did get everything here, but today I am going with their oil filter for the oil change. But stay tuned, because I am going to have a video for the fuel filter, the air filter, and the in-cabin filter, and I'll do each one of those separate to show you how easy it is to change this stuff yourself. So I'm losing daylight, so I'm going to get started on this and get you some footage of getting this changed. I think this is actually surprise you how quickly an oil change will go on this Duramax. So you can see the bottom of her oil pan right here. And then her oil filter is actually just right here in easy to get to plain sight, right down on the bottom of the motor. Well, I just realized that I forgot to hit the record button. I got a oil sample in my glass here. So I pulled the plug out and then let it drain for probably a few quarts, and then put my container under there, filled it up, and got a sample. As you can see now that I've turned the camera on, it is now to the end of its drain pretty much. So I'm gonna let it sit there and run for a little while and get all this oil out until it really kind of just gets down to a drip. While it's doing that, I'm going to go ahead over to the oil filter. So I'm going to be using one of my strap wrenches on this filter. Everything's nice and clean under here, so I should be able to grip to it pretty good. Man, they got that on way too tight. All right. And I gotta say, these little strap wrenches have saved me a number of times. Now I did let the truck warm up before attempting to drain this. I also went ahead and took the fill cap off to vent the system. That way it would drain out good also. And that way there's no suction on it, and it should just all drain out perfectly fine. So while that oil is draining, let's talk about the filter for just a minute, because the filter that comes from Doc's is not the filter that matches what was on it from the dealership. So I checked into that and I found a GM bulletin basically saying that they changed filters, and so that's why that if you go to the dealership now, it's going to have that other filter on it. It listed this filter, which is a PF26 equivalent, which is the original L5P Duramax filter, but since then GM has changed what they're using on the L5P Duramax and changed it to that smaller and longer filter. Now, Doc's evidently hasn't updated that or changed the filter that they're sending out in their kits, because I ordered this in a full kit with the oil, fuel filter, air filter, and in-cabin filter, and this is what came in that kit. But like I say, whenever I got it, it confused me, so I did check, and there was a GM bulletin stating that they changed from this PF26 filter to the new style. So this one should work just fine, have no issues. But in future oil changes, I'm actually probably going to switch and go back to that smaller but longer filter, because GM says that it has more filter media in it and does a better job filtering than what this one does. So I'll probably go back to that on my next oil change, but I just wanted to kind of point that out and take a little bit extra time in this video to explain that, and of why maybe Doc's is doing this, because they have not changed or updated the filter with GM's bulletin. So you can see that we're pretty much just down to a drip. Same way with our oil drain. It is just dripping out of there barely. So I'm going to go ahead and cap these back off. I'm going to clean up the mating surface on our oil filter. I'm going to go ahead and snug up the oil drain pan here. Now I'm not going to over tighten this, I'm just going to snug it up pretty good. And now I'm going to go ahead and wipe around the housing there where the oil filter mates up. I'm also going to reach back inside the housing there as much as I can and just clean away any gritty residue or anything that's left behind. Now this is hard to get every last drop of oil, because it continues to run out of there and it's been sitting here draining for quite some time. So I don't know if there's any way to get it to completely stop. All right, so now I'm going to use one more clean paper towel here and clean this off. And I've already gotten the filter, the new filter, prepped, and I put a little thin layer of oil around the gasket. And so I'm going to get that on there. All right, so as you can see, this filter is a different size than the one that I pulled off. The one that I pulled off is a whole lot smaller, but it's quite a bit longer. I'm not crazy about the way that it fits up, because the filter itself is out past the housing and stuff here, but I guess as long as it seals up and it doesn't leak, and it does say that it is the correct one and that it is a compatible filter. I found that through a GM bulletin that they had changed that to the smaller filter, but this was the filter previously. So another thing on these filters, I am not going to put a wrench on this thing and torque this down, but I'm only tightening what I can with my hand. And I let the filter sit for a few minutes, and then kind of that way the rubber seal and everything kind of compacts a little bit, and then you can turn it a little bit more. And that's as tight as I can get it by hand, and that's as far as I'm going. I am not putting a wrench on that. And now I'm going to go up to the top and start putting some oil in it. So now that we got the oil drained, we got the fill plug back in it, and we got the filter changed, it's time to put our oil back in. And I'm going to be using the Shell Rotella T6. This is full synthetic diesel engine oil, and it says that it is heavy duty diesel engine oil. I bought this in a 2.5 gallon jug because the Duramax is supposed to take 10 quarts. So if it fills up correctly and I don't do anything wrong or spill it, then it should take one jug of this and be exact pretty much for what we need. I did go ahead and buy extra just in case, and then also in between oil changes, you know, if I check it and it happens to be a little bit low, then I'll have some extra there to put in there. So let's go ahead and start filling this thing up. I'm not going to go completely 2.5 gallons. I'm probably going to go about a quart short and then check it just to make sure I'm on track and everything is looking like that it should. And then I'll go ahead and add the rest of it to top it off. I'm going to go under the truck just to make sure we're not leaking anything out right now. So I'm pretty close to being out of oil in here. So I'm going to go ahead and check my dipstick and see where we're at. So at this point, I'm not even touching the dipstick. So I'm going to go ahead and pour the rest of that in there because there's probably only about another quart. All right, I'm going to check the oil again. That is the full 2.5 gallons. It should be on the dipstick by now. And it is on it. Let's see where it's reading here. And it looks like I'm reading pretty much right at the full mark. I don't know if you can see that on the dipstick, but at 2.5 gallons, it puts it right at the top of the lines and stuff there. So whenever I start it, it's probably going to pull that down just a little bit. So we should be good right there. So I'm going to go ahead and put the dipstick back in, and I'm going to go ahead and put the oil cap back on. I'm going to start the truck, and then I'm going to get underneath it and look for leaks, check around that filter and make sure everything is good under there. And then I'll just recheck the oil and make sure we're in the safe operating zone, and we'll be finished. So another thing I'm going to do is watch my oil pressure whenever I start it and make sure that comes up. Well, I missed that because my phone connected to the truck and it caused it to stop recording. But you can see where the oil pressure is. It does have good oil pressure right there. It's not too high, it's not too low. It's typically where it's at whenever it's cold. And we'll go into the truck and check for leaks. So the main thing I wanted to check while I'm under here is make sure that my oil filter is not leaking and my drain plug is not leaking. Now I can see a little bit of oil on the bottom of the filter, but I'm pretty sure that's just residual. So I wipe that little bit of residual off of there, and there's definitely no more running on it. It is good to go. So guys, we got everything buttoned up, everything's sealed up good. There's no leaks, no drips or anything anywhere. The oil level looks good. The point of this video is though, to save yourself some money, do this oil change yourself. But I'd venture to say that if I was doing this again, which I will be next time because it is a lot cheaper to do this yourself, I can probably do this in about 30 minutes, which is kind of typical do-it-yourself oil change. But one of the biggest time-consuming things is actually waiting on the oil to drain and letting it come down to where it's just a drip. That actually takes a pretty good while. So that's where most of that time is. I only needed 2 tools to change the oil in this myself. That was a 15mm socket and a ratchet and that strap wrench to take the filter loose. That's the only tools you need to change the oil yourself in your Duramax diesel. So we're looking at under $85 to do this job yourself. And like I was saying before, the dealer wanted $180 to do this job. So every time you change your oil yourself, you're saving $100. Now something I am going to do also is keep a record of this, keep receipts, and do all that, because that way if there ever is a problem with your engine, then you have receipts that you have been changing your oil and doing it on a regular basis. I also have an app on my phone that keeps track of that kind of stuff, so I have records of all this in case there ever has a problem with the diesel. They can't come back and say that it's my fault or that I didn't change the oil because I didn't have it into the dealer to make these records. So thanks for checking out the video today. If you enjoyed it, I appreciate you hitting that thumbs up button. And until next time, keep it outdoors, and we'll see you on the next one.